Parents, I want to talk about a concept that you probably haven't heard about before, and I'm almost positive you're never going to hear about from your pediatrician or other providers in your life. And that is this big, scary word called subluxation. Listen, there's no bonus points for knowing how to spell it, but it is crucial to understanding what is going on with our kids and how we can really help them reach their full potential. So please tune into this because I know it is information that you need, especially if you're a parent of a kid who's been struggling and you've tried everything. Maybe they're on different medications or you're considering that. You're doing a million different therapies. You've tried diet interventions and you're giving them all the supplements and the essential oils and all the natural things that you can think of. If you're doing all that and they're still stuck, this is exactly who this applies to, because so many of the families that we reach out to, or so many of the families that reach out to us and they come looking for help, they're in that boat, right? It kind of pains me to admit it. It makes me a little bit sad, but most of the time, families showing up here, they've tried it all, right? They've done everything else, but their kid is still stuck. We joke that we should answer the phone, hey, welcome to your last resort. And listen, we're changing that, right? The more work that offices like Thrive and our network of pediatric chiropractors are doing, the more families are waking up and realizing this isn't the best path for my kid, right? There's gotta be another way. And so we're gonna change that. In the future, this isn't gonna be the last resort. This is gonna be step one to getting your kids on track. But the reality is right now it's not. And so we see families showing up with struggles, with issues and really a lot of interventions already taking place. And what we find is that they're missing one piece of the puzzle. And even when, just a couple minutes of conversation, connecting the dots and explaining what's going on, I can't tell you how many times they walk away from the presentation or that first initial meeting thinking, wow, this makes so much sense. Why has no one ever told me this before? So that's what this subluxation is all about. There's a couple pieces of it. There's one, misalignment, two, fixation, and then the really big one, neurological interference. So let's explain. It starts really as a physical thing, like you probably think of typically with chiropractic. There's some sort of misalignment or fixation within that neurospinal system. In that simplistic view of chiropractic, most people think of it as like a Jenga tower, right? There's blocks stacked on top of each other, and if one gets knocked out of line, you gotta whack it back in line. And that's not really what this is all about, right? Sure, the structural health of the spine matters, but what we really care about, especially when it comes to kids, is that neurological function. And that's the big key, is when that misalignment and fixation takes place, it affects neurology, it affects the nervous system, and it shifts our nervous system into the state of stress. There's imbalance and interference created. That imbalance and interference is gonna affect everything that the nervous system controls, which, little hint here, is everything in your body. So what does it show up as first? A lot of times it's maybe some gut stuff or some muscle tone and tension issues, especially on our babies, right? The little ones, they don't really do much besides eat and sleep and poop. And so GI system gets slowed down. Maybe they're not going to the bathroom as frequently, they're constipated, or it's coming up the other way with spitting up and reflux. They're not moving as well as they should. Their head control is off. That's a lot of time the early signs of this. But then that continues on, and this imbalance and interference starts to show up as an immune system dysregulation, and they're getting sick all the time, and they're getting ear infections, and they can't ever kick the cold, kick the sick, and we're constantly suppressing it with medications anyways, and we're never really letting them get on track and get ahead of it. And now as this kid gets older, these things that were just kind of gut and immune system function early on start showing up emotionally, behaviorally, and sensory wise, right? All of a sudden these sensory inputs that are supposed to be normal, supposed to be able to be managed and dealt with, are overstimulating for that kid, and they're having meltdowns, they're having tantrums, they can't regulate. That is the story of so many of the kids we work with. And instead of taking this outside-in approach of trying to change and manipulate their behaviors, let's focus on the inside first, right? That inside-out healing is the way to go. Because if we can correct that misalignment, fixation, and neurological piece of it, all the behavioral therapies, all the other interventions, all the dietary changes you're making are gonna be so much more effective. So that's where being a neurologically focused chiropractor comes in, because we can do scans, we can quantify and measure that stress so that we can have a game plan to get them on the right track. So that's what we want for your kids. That's what we want for every kid, is them to not have that stress in their system so that we can be on that healing and growth and development track. Reach out if you've got questions on this, guys. Share this information with a family you know, because we're here for you and we want to help each kid make sure they're at their best.